There's your chance. Take it.
Grateful.
The day will come when you won't be.
You can breathe. You can blink. You can cry. Hell, you're all gonna be doing that.
Taking it like a champ.
Season 7, Episode 1 of The Walking Dead was one of the most controversial, one of the most anticipated episodes in the show's history. Personally, it's my favorite episode. I love everything about it. I love the scared atmosphere and vibe of it all. Negan's entrance. Jeffrey Dean Morgan does an amazing job playing Negan. He's just so charismatic and fun to watch. We've never seen our group this defeated. We've never seen them this scared before. The build up throughout season 6, Rick is just climbing up this mountain, just getting higher and higher in his position, all for it to come crumbling down. It's really beautiful. I remember the day I saw this episode. I had binged seasons 1 through 6 on Netflix, and this was the first one I ever saw, so I'm a little bit biased. My family, they had been watching it for years, so they were very nervous and very excited to find out who was going to die. And I remember watching it. After they kill Abraham, it's like, okay, I can live with that. It's okay. Abraham's one of the smaller characters. And then he turns around and kills Glenn because of what Daryl did. It was just, you were on the edge of your seat. It was just so tragic because Glenn had been with us for so long. He's one of the most original characters from the very first episode. He saved Rick, but Rick couldn't save him. It's just so sad. What else is great about the episode is the build up to the death. They don't just open up with it right away. They show Rick defeated and almost crying, like we've never seen him like this before. And all throughout the episode, he's just thinking about everyone, and you don't know who's gonna die yet. It's perfectly put together. I love it so much. A lot of people didn't like what this led to, the story after, and I might do a separate video on this, but it led to the March to War and then the All Out War storyline, which I personally really like those. I mean, they did have a lot of cliffhangers and a few filler episodes, but I personally really love them. And for it to kick off with this episode, it started strong. And that callback to season 1, episode 6 with Dr. Jenner, it was perfect. What's great about Negan is that you could argue he's a psychopath, but he's not like crazy insane like the governor or like Alpha. He's just a normal guy. I mean, he might not be completely normal for bashing someone's brain in like that, but he's reasonable. He has morals. I don't think he would have killed Carl. If he were to kill anyone, I don't think he would have killed Carl, because that's one of his rules, that you don't kill kids. But yeah, it was just so amazing and suspenseful, his eeny, meeny, miny, mo. One thing I'd really like to see is a prequel story about Negan. There's a Here's Negan comic that shows how the Saviors came to be and how he came to power, and I think that'd be really interesting to see, because a lot of people have argued, and I've said this before too, is that from Negan's perspective, he's not a bad guy. You know, he's just trying to survive. He's built this community for himself. And at this point, Rick is the one that has killed everyone. Rick is the killer here. Him and his people killed a bunch of Negans out of nowhere. Negan didn't do anything to Rick. Sure, they were at the hilltop, but for Rick, they really just did that to be done with it. They didn't even try to make a deal. And as ruthless as Negan is, he's at least very reasonable. You know, he was only going to kill Abraham until Daryl punched him, so he punished them for it. It was such an iconic moment. As much as I love Glenn, I am glad that they gave him his comic death, because I can't see him going out any other way. Like, it was just perfect. And it left room for Maggie to do a lot during All Out War. She stepped up as a leader. She was part of the King, the Widow, and Rick. She became the Widow, and she stepped up, became the leader of Hilltop, Yeah, I would say she got her payback. And that shot of Rick just laying on the RV, he's no longer in charge. He can't do it. This Negan is this huge threat. They can't stop him at this point. We've never seen Rick Grimes this defeated, and you gotta love it because it's just so cool to see someone finally come in and kick him off his high horse. So yeah, I actually want to show you guys some reactions from some of my friends just to get a little bit of different perspectives on the episode. One of my friends, he just started watching the series. He's been binging it, and he's finally up to this moment, and it's one of the biggest moments. So I decided to watch it with him and see if I can catch any good reactions. Before that, I want to discuss the episode with one of my friends who reads the comics. He's a huge fan of the comics, and he's read them all the way through. So I'm going to talk to him. We're going to kind of compare Glenn's death and Negan in the comics versus the show. So yeah, enjoy. What'd you think when you first read it before the show or anything else? What was your reaction?
So when I first read it, I knew about the show. I picked up the comics and season 7 was starting. I think that's when I picked it up.
Yeah, so that was around the time that he had died in like 2016.
So I knew about the fake out death, but
yeah, the whole dumpster thing.
I knew about the dumpster death, and so when I read the comics, I was like, okay, because at the time I thought it was like his actual death because I didn't know any better. I didn't know about Negan, and when I was reading it, I was like, holy crap, a lot of F-bombs. First off, he says the F word 4 times in a row. You know it's Negan when you see the F word 5 times in a speech bubble. A very endearing trait of comic Negan. It was really like stressful because I remember like reading it and I was like, man, this is like really stressing because like you have this guy and a gang of like 50 people around him. This guy has a freaking baseball bat covered in barbed wire.
Like, he just came out of nowhere. You thought the Saviors were just this group like any other.
Well, yeah, because like they were building up the Saviors like, oh, the Saviors are like these big group of bads, like they're Great Britain and America. They're like collecting stuff. And it's like, okay, they can probably take him out really easy. Especially in the comics, it's really at that point I was like, okay, what is he gonna do? And then he freaking eeny meeny miny mo, and it picks out Glenn. I'm like, man, dude.
Yeah.
Especially, I think it really cemented Negan's character right there. Like, you're like, oh, Negan's not really, like, this guy is not gonna just, like, do it, right? Like, the governor was already bad. You can't have anyone that tops, like, how crazy the governor was. You got this guy that says, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I'm gonna kill you.
He's really different than the other villains in that he's crazy, but he's not insane and loves to kill people.
Negan kind of looks back at it, and he's, like, talking about his humanity. I think it's cool that like we get a sense of Negan later on. I don't know if it's reached that point in the show yet, but I do know that like in the comics they do expand on Negan's character a lot. That's definitely one way to introduce a character.
Yeah.
Especially in comics. It's so gruesome. Like
he's like the Thanos of The Walking Dead. Like he's the
really
villain.
is,
he's the bad guy that you almost think is right.
Yeah.
I guess Thanos doesn't get partially redeemed.
Then again, Negan has definitely become a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, Negan is almost more popular than Rick, honestly.
So now here is what my friend George had to say about the episode. Here's his reaction.
Loki, which was Eugene instead
Glenn's just happy it wasn't Maggie.
That man has some built-up issues. When did Daryl ever listen to Rolls? Well, I guess this is my last episode, Jake. Well, that happened. From how you were talking, I expected him to die eventually, just not now.
Well, you kept on.
I was hoping to get a season or 2 out of him.
You kept on saying that you thought they were gonna fight and it was gonna be like this epic battle. And did you really think that, or could you kind of tell that?
I thought that at first, and then now I'm kind of thinking towards the
like when they started getting blocked off and.
Yeah, I'm starting to think this is gonna play out like Infinity Saga.
You could compare it to that, yeah.
We're gonna go back in time.
Yeah, Minus that.
Not not exactly, but I meant like just the general.
Yeah.
Yeah, they find a
Aspect.
DeLorean and go back. Man,
Yeah, what do you
I
think
do want to
of-
say that Abraham dies there. That's really weird.
I think they left Abraham alive so that they could, because like people knew that Glenn got this iconic death in the comics. I think they kept him alive just so they could kill him a little bit later to throw us off and make us think that it was just him dying and Glenn would live.
Oh yeah, Glenn's death in this one is a lot more abrupt. After Negan kills Glenn, they just leave. They don't have all of that just happened.
Where they try cutting Carl's arm off.
Oh no, that doesn't happen at all. He kills Glenn, makes a witty joke, and then leaves.
Yeah, they kind of drew it out a little bit longer.
Which I mean, I understand why they did that, but like,
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, how long is Negan gonna be here? Also, seeing that in actual, like an actual person,
Yeah,
was
it's,
really.
Ugh.
I love how Negan in this show can't say the F bomb like 50 times in a sentence, but they're allowed to show Glenn's freaking brain matter on the
Like,
I was
ground.
about to say, Glenn's eye just popped out.
He can say shit, bitch, and he can bust someone's brains, but he can't say fuck.
Yeah,
There's
in the comics, he drops the F bomb at least 50 times a sentence.
There's a video somewhere on YouTube that shows, I don't know how much of the scene it actually shows, but it shows Negan's speech to all of them with all the
Yeah.
F-bombs in it.
They on the Blu-ray for it. They filmed it again with all the F-bombs, but I've seen it, and it's still not even as many F-bombs as it is.
Oh my god, he
like
says
in the
he
fucking
says the F
comics,
word
it's
4
fucking
times in a row, like
every
all at
fucking
the
word.
same time.
Yeah.
He makes new adjectives with that word.
What?
Dude, in the comics, he is a character, man. He did a good
well-
job with the intimidation, though. I really like that.
See, now that's a villain.
That is a good villain.
Oh yeah,
Would you say
Negan
The governor
is.
over here.
Who
The
did you
governor
like?
over
Who
here.
did you like more, Negan, the governor? Did you like Gareth more or less?
I like Negan
where would
so
you-
far.
You think he's the best?
Like- Yeah.
Oh, Negan is
yeah.
like such a fan favorite, man.
It's just the way he conducts himself. The governor kind of conducted himself with the psychopath type. Well, Negan's
more,
over here,
not as crazy.
calm and just
The governor put on a face because he didn't want his people to see how brutal he really is and how he kept his place going. Negan doesn't care about that. That's how he keeps his place going and keeps people in line, is by everybody seeing who he really is.
Stupid Alexa. What the hell?
just saying that walking from the back is dope. I'm just saying.
I didn't know we were watching Endgame.
That's gonna be it for this video. Stay tuned for more Walking Dead content in the future.